Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Adventures in Book Hunting. Um, this episode is another library haul. It's a lot smaller than some of the monstrous hauls I've had and documented over the course of the last year. Um, but this one kind of highlights the reason I started doing this YouTube thing in the first place, and that is uh, I've been hunting books for years and years and years, decades, probably. But I was finding myself in situations where I was finding extraordinary interesting things and, thought to document them in some way. I did Instagram for a while. And then finally, probably a little more than a year ago, I started doing these little YouTube videos. Like I said, just to kind of document the history of what I was doing and to share what I thought were some interesting finds with the rest of the world. And I think my first video was about finding the a free copy of the Tolkien Atlas that had been published in England and came to me by way of the Shakespeare & Company bookstore in Paris, France. Uh, Interesting book because of its content, but also because of its provenance, its history. And think I've documented a few of those, but I've also missed out on documenting a few of those prior to that. And this video is kind of one of those. Before I bury the lead anymore, I found a very interesting book uh, about to me, very interesting local historical topic. And that is, I found this book in a library sale. In fact, my very local library I spend more time in than any other, they have a sale once a month. And I found this one. As you can see, it's simply called Scrip. Obviously, it's ex-library. It was in their reference collection before being uh, pulled from the system. Right there. That's the cover, but if you can tell, this image is glued to the cover. This book has the look of being almost homemade. As you can see, it's almost like it's yeah, as you can tell, it was typed. It was typed and then copied. The copyright is attributed to, well, there's a title page, written by Stuart Brown, but the copyright is attributed to the Virginia Book Company, which I thought was a bit odd. And the only thing I could find in research trying to find the Virginia Book Company was it's the current name of the bookstore for Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. Can't find any information on that publisher. If anyone has any information on that publisher, I'd be very interested to know. Is this just a company that this person made or founded to publish this book or other works? What is the history of that company? But anyway, this is a book about Scrip. And if you don't know what Scrip is, not script with a T, but Scrip, it is basically private currency. As you can see, you've got these examples of paper script and then it's a very large note right here. But a lot of times when we think of Scrip, we think of these coins, these cheaply made coins like tokens, which were used as currency in a lot of industries, but for our area, when we think of Scrip, we think of coal companies. And basically, the way the process worked, you worked for a coal company, you were paid with this company's money. You weren't paid with real currency, you were paid with that money. And this money could only be exchanged at their venues, typically at the coal company's company store. And every coal company had a company store. And you paid their prices, which were often inflated, with money that was not real. And as the old song goes, the famous line from the old song, old Saint Peter, I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Well, this is part of that process. Um, and there are some historical reasons why it arose. Oftentimes, these coal companies where they were operating were very remote, far from civilization. And so they had to invest in the infrastructure to supply their miners with all the goods they would need or want. And that was an expensive process. And just because of that isolation, these independent systems developed. But as you can readily imagine, they were often abused. And the coal company would extend credit. Um, and you could, like use of any credit or abuse of any credit system, you could find yourself trapped if you're a worker in that system. And even I found this very interesting book. This is one I'm going to keep for a good long while, maybe forever. It's not in great shape. I don't know if it has any value at all, but like I say, just extraordinarily interesting for me. Uh, just wanted to highlight a few things that I found in here. This book covers a multitude of copies. It talks about the different scripts that are used in many companies all over the Appalachian coal fields. I found instances here from Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Kentucky, a lot in local areas, Wyoming, McDowell, Mercer counties. In any event, I just wanted to go through and show you some of the things that are in here. I thought, let's see if we can get there. If I can get it to focus. You see those tokens right there. It says good for 1 keg of powder. In the olden days, a coal miner would use black powder and later dynamite to blast a coal seam or face, um, which would loosen the raw coal, which could then be dug and pulled from a mine. Miners had to pay for their own black powder, and I think there's one on the next page. And later on, here's a token for 6 sticks of dynamite. But yes, if you're a miner, you're paying for your own supplies. Company does not provide them. You provide it yourself, and you buy it from the company. Uh, as I said, a system rife for exploitation and abuse. Let's see what else I got. Here's a page with just a number of examples of different metal script. And once again, these are all from different coal companies. Not interchangeable typically with any other coal company. You're paid in captive currency and you shop in captive stores. Usually in those days, you're living in houses provided by the company, paying rent to the company for their house, deducted from your pay, of course, which was probably in script. Just a few examples of those kinds of scripts. Here was an interesting thing. This is an advertisement for a company that makes script. So you're a coal company and you want to use this system. You either have to make your own script, and there's some articles and pages in here that describe that. You can buy a press to print your own script, or you can buy script like this from a company and have your company's name or logo placed on it. There's tons and tons of those. I wanted to show you. But beyond just talking about script as as a currency system, there's also tons and tons of information in here I think would be valuable for anyone doing any kind of local history in the Appalachian coal fields. Here is a photo of a company store. This is the Pulaski Iron Store, 1897, near Welch and Bluefield in McDowell County, West Virginia. And my coal history is a little rusty. I think I remember where Pulaski Coal, or actually Pulaski Iron Company, had their coal works, but I'm gonna have to brush up on it. And you'll see this a lot. Steel companies or iron companies would have captive coal mines that supplied their industries. Probably the most famous one is Gary, West Virginia, which supplied U.S. Steel, a little company you may have heard of. Finally, I just want to show you one more page before we move on. But this is the Sagamow store in a little community called McComas, West Virginia. McComas now is just a bend in the road. The last time I went through there was a house, an old commercial building that I think somebody was trying to do something with, probably for ATV tourism, and a mobile home at the intersection that used to be a thriving community with hundreds of people. Now, it's interesting to me because this is the company store for Pocahontas Fuel Company. This picture was taken in 1935, or credited as being in 1935. And it's of interest to me because this is where my father was born, about a decade after this photo was taken. Once again, in those days, a thriving community. but a coal community, captive to a coal company. One more. Anyway, yeah, this is the sort of thing right up my alley. I've got lots of books about local history and McDowell County in particular, and the coal industry in particular in McDowell County. And like I say, this is to me an invaluable resource. And once again, if I'd found nothing else in this little library sale I went to earlier in the week, I would have been thrilled just to walk away with this. But I did find some other nice things. Um, let's show you now. And the next few books I'm going to talk about, I don't intend to keep. I'll probably just donate them to the Hatter bookstore, so they should be available pretty soon. The first book in the Dogman series by Dav Pilkey, who's also famous for the Captain Underpants books. Uh, Very popular children's literature. And this one's in really good shape. I actually got this one at the library's Little Free Library. I traded for this one. But no, like I say, a neat little book. And if you have a young person or even an old person who's interested in it, it should be at the Hatter really soon. And these were the books that initially I was going to get from the book sale. And all of these I intend to donate to the Hatter. You have the Glass Castle with Jeanette Walls, and I checked, and they do not currently have a copy. And it's a book that they'd like to have readily available because of its local interest. Over a third of the book is centered in Welch, McDowell County, West Virginia. And for people from Welch, McDowell County, it's sometimes a controversial book. It's, of course, the memoir of Jeanette Walls, made into a motion picture starring Woody Harrelson and Brie Larson. But always a book in demand. Uh, and I've read it. I don't really need to keep a copy, so that one will be at the Hatter very soon. And the next four things I found four very nice naked hardcovers from the Lemony Snicket series, or a series of unfortunate events. Let's see. Let's do them in the right order. Didn't find number one, but I found number two, The Reptile Room. Number five, The Austere Academy. Love the art on these things. This one is the sixth book in the series, the next one up, The Ersatz Elevator. Let's get a look at that. I particularly like these editions of these particular books because of the cover art, and I love the way these little books are made. Small, fit in the hand well. I see that deckled edges. They're very attractive books as, just books as objects. Let's see. And the final one I found was the seventh, The Vile Village. Once again, with really, really intriguing cover art. And, brand new, these books went for, well, what's it say? $12, recommended retail price. Beautiful little books. I read several when my kids were younger, that I'd gotten them. They're fun reads. And yes, but if you have a small person or a young person or an old person who's interested, those four will be available at the Hatter within a few days. Um, Once again, it's Thursday when I'm recording, so I'll probably be dropping these off today. That's kind of my traditional day to do my donations to the Hatter. Um, but give them a day or two to, to clean the books, process them and price them, and then they'll be out. Now, as I was going to pay for those books, for Glass Castle and the series of unfortunate event books, on the table where the volunteer from the library's Friends of the Library Association, where she was sitting, she had a stack of three books with some papers on top of them, and those three books immediately caught my eye. And I asked, "Are those for sale or are those reserved? Has somebody already bought them? Are you saving them for someone else?" He goes, "Oh, no, 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 they're for sale." And I said, "I want all of them." And here's what I will show you. These three books. And actually, it's these two that caught my eye. This obviously is a Penguin classic. It is Alexandre Dumas' The Count of Monte Cristo. I already have a copy in another edition, but oh, if you follow this channel for any length of time at all, uh, you know I have a real sweet tooth for Penguin Classics, and I already have this book in a different edition, probably a different translator. Let's see if I yes, it is a Modern Library edition. Which yes, this this book with the gold spine and black border, that is a Modern Library. One of my if I see those out in the wild, I always take at least a first or second look. I have quite a few of them, but as I said, this is my preferred one, so I'm going to donate my old one and keep this one. And it's very hard for me to give up a penguin, but no, this one I'm going to enjoy. All right. The second one is a book I needed. Had this book a long time ago. Obviously, J.R.R. Tolkien's The Silmarillion, which documents the legendarium of Tolkien's world, gives you the back history, the religious context for his world. This, of course, is the second edition, edited by his son Christopher Tolkien, in a really nice trade paperback, and it will go on my Tolkien shelf, which has really become a Tolkien shelf. There's nothing but Tolkien on it now. I'll have to, hopefully, if I'm fortunate in book hunting, I'll have to scroll down to the next shelf very soon. That's a keeper. You will not see this at the Hatter anytime soon. That one's mine, all mine. All right. And the final book in this haul, it's Jane Austen's Northanger Abbey. But as you can see, it's in an edition in style, kind of like a journal. It's got the ribbon that keeps it closed. You know, it's that journal style book. But inside, it is the novel Northanger Abbey. And I've already got it over here. One of those books right there in my little Jane Austen section. I already have a Signet Classic of it, which is good enough for me. This one is really neat. And in fact, some really nifty color illustrations. So, let's say to my mind, I just need a reading copy. I don't really, for this particular book, don't need something, fancier than that. So this one's also going to the Hatter. And while we're talking about the Hatter, I need to make a statement. I've made this before, but I'm going to make it again. I don't get any economic remuneration from the Hatter at all. The folks who run the Hatter and actually, both sets of operators of the Hatter since its inception are good friends. I am sometimes customer, but always friend and benefactor of the store. I book hunt for fun, and a I have a rough budget that I try and stick to. I generally don't spend more than $20 in any given week for books, and most of the books I get are anywhere from free to very, very cheap. It's extraordinarily rare for me to spend more than $2 or $3 on a book. And like I say, quite a few I donate to the Hatter. My last video was a set of books I found for a friend, but because of their costs, we'd made an arrangement. If I found these books that he was after, in that case, some popular mechanics, do-it-yourself books, if I find him, contact him, and he would reimburse me. And those books were a little more expensive, so not something to donate. But like I say, that set was, I think I paid $55 for it, and of course he reimbursed me. But if I found that same set for $5, I'd probably just bought it and gave it to him. I'm not into book hunting for the money, or else I would have sold that one a long time ago. I'm in it for the books and the thrill of finding really interesting things out in the wild. But as I said, I don't get any money from the Hatter, but I do donate quite a bit to them. Um, as in today's haul, sometimes I find some stuff that stays with me because it's just too good to pass up. And oftentimes, my children, grandchildren, get to be the targets of my generosity. when I find books for them. That's always a thrill too. But in any event, that's my motivation currently for what I do. Um, a couple of years ago, I was getting books for other people, or finding interesting things to give to other people, or to the Hatter, because like I say, I've known the operators of the Hatter for as long as there's been a Hatter books shop. But in any event, I just wanted to state that there because I've been asked the question a couple of times. No, I don't work for the store. I don't get any money for the books I bring in. I donate them because I want them to succeed. Because I think it's important to have a really good independent used bookstore in our community. In any event, but final shot. I am wearing their new shirt. Alice would rather be at the Hatter Bookshop, and most days I would too. I'm wearing the shirt backwards because I got to show you this gorgeous cover art. But in any event, um, that's all I have to say today. Like I say, a small haul, but I thought uh, a really quality one. I was really tickled by the stuff I found, particularly the book on Scrip, um, which I'm going to be sharing with my friends with historical interest very, very soon. With that, I will say goodbye and wish you good book hunting. Talk to you again soon.